Katherine Clark here. My name is Mark St. Louis. I'm one of the co-chairs along with Margaret Copey. And we thank you for coming tonight. I just want to remind you guys that LexMedia is recording this live on their YouTube channel, and it will also be available on demand on their website. So also, could you please silence your phones if you haven't done so already, or at least put them, or turn them off. Thank you. I want to just recognize two of our state representatives that we have here. We have State Senator Sidney Friedman. And State Representative Michelle Ciccolo. So I'm going to have a few words, first from Representative Ciccolo, and then from Representative Clark, and then we'll open it up to questions after this. We're going to be walking around with the mic, so just raise your hands. I'll try to keep track of the order, but that might be a little hard, but please be patient with me. Thanks. Here's State Representative Ciccolo to introduce the Congresswoman.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, with Clark needs absolutely no introduction from us. And the energy in this room and the attendance is incredibly exciting. We are all very anxious to hear what Whip Clark has to say. But before we turn it over, I just want to say what a privilege it is to be a part of the delegation with you leading us at the federal level. We are in your debt. Catherine has served as a mentor for me since she was a state rep in my shoes, and then moved on to be a state senator, and it's been wonderful to watch her meteoric rise. And you all know she is the second ranking woman in the Democratic Party. And also the highest ranking woman in Congress, if I'm not mistaken, and that is extraordinary. And she is leading the way for all of us and is just an incredible, amazing leader that we are so grateful to have here in our district. So I know Cindy wanted to say hello and a few words, but we are just thrilled that you can be here with us today, and we need your leadership, and thank you for everything you're doing. It's not an easy time, and thank God you're there fighting for us.
You know, what Michelle did tell you is that before you leave, we're cloning every one of you and sending you to Kansas. So make sure to get cloned before you leave. Thank you all for being here. We are in an incredibly lucky position to have somebody like Katherine Clark leading this effort, and I know no small expectations. You're just going to make us all feel a lot better. Or you're going to tell us what we can do. So we are really lucky. We so value your leadership. We are so happy that you are there and that you're representing us. We know our values are instilled in you, that you are part of us, and we just can't thank you enough for everything. So make us all feel better.
I hope I can make you feel as good as you are making me feel. I cannot tell you what it is like to come off a plane from Washington, D.C. after this week and see all of you, because you are the hope for our country. We're going to do everything we can. We are going to fight like hell in Congress. We are going to leave no tool unused, no law undefended. Every procedural parliamentary thing that we can do, we will use. But it all comes down to all of us in this moment together. And we know, I can't believe it's only been something like 38 days or 2 decades, I'm not sure which, but we have to meet each day, each and every day, with the urgency, the seriousness, with a understanding of what's at stake and how diabolical and systematic this is, but also knowing that we are the answer, and that it is our solidarity, it is our determination to defend this country, to defend democracy, to defend those things that are at the founding nature, even though our country often falls short. It's about equality and justice for all. For all. And what we are seeing is a systematic dismantling of our government. People keep saying, what about a shutdown? We are watching a shutdown on a permanent level. And what is it all about? It's a very simple agenda. You take taxpayer money that people have earned and given to the government to do good things for their communities, to educate our children, to make sure that people can access health care, to take care of our veterans, to give people lives of dignity and opportunity, to have clean air and clean water, to make sure that the food we eat is safe, to make sure that we have a planet in a few years, that we are addressing and building resiliency and climate change, and that we continue to strive to be that more perfect union for everyone. Whether you're a trans kid or you are a veteran who doesn't know if they are ever going to have a roof over their head again. You deserve an opportunity to be what you want to be in this country. And that is what we are working hand in hand to defend. And no place better to do it than in Lexington, Massachusetts. We have a big anniversary coming up, and it is going to be a reminder that in that Declaration of Independence, it says that we are all created equal under the laws in this country, and we have to rise to that challenge. So they are dismantling all of this, taking away things from farmers and teachers and our seniors and our kids for one reason. It is to funnel tax cuts to the very wealthiest, to the billionaire class. And it was on full display, one of the most out-of-body experiences I've ever had was sitting on that inaugural stage in the Capitol and watching the billionaire class come right in and have a front row seat. It's all you need to know about this administration. They paid to elect him, and now they are going to collect. And the thing about these billionaires, it appears it is never too much. You can never have too much money. What could you even do with $400+ billion? It's hard to even take in what that kind of wealth is like. But what we can see in Elon Musk is that his great wealth insulates him from any of the choices he's making for the rest of us. And so he can say with impunity, we'll go in and break the system. We'll take our musketeers and we'll go in to our most secure systems in this country, which not only exposes our personal data, our health care, our social security information, but it is also a high national security risk. Because I don't care how great these kids are at coding or being software engineers, they do not understand these legacy systems. They do not understand that Russia and China and our enemies ping these systems every single day, trying to find backdoors in. If you can get into our payment system, that is an incredibly powerful thing to do. You can crash our markets instantly. We process over $220 billion of payments out of our US Treasury every single day. $220 billion in payments every day. And to have people rifling around who don't understand these systems, they obviously can't read government spreadsheets, and it's all about breaking things and then saying, we're doing this in the name of efficiency and, getting rid of waste and fraud. There isn't a single one of us who hasn't had an experience with the US government where we're like, that could go better. We've all had that experience. It fills up our office and my staff's work with helping people. We had a lovely woman from Lincoln who was declared dead by the federal government. She called us to assure us that she was not, and it took some doing. But this is not what this is about. You don't do efficiency by wholesale firing of people. We've just had almost 1,000 jobs are in peril. They've already fired hundreds at an IRS processing place in Kansas. So who's going to do the tax refunds? And now they're saying we're going to fire 50% of the people who work at the Social Security Administration. If you can't come at Social Security through the front door, this is how you create cynicism around our Social Security system and get people to say, maybe we shouldn't have this system anymore. Maybe this money that belongs to all of you, that you've earned over your working lifetimes, really belongs now to wealthy people. And so when there's nobody there to write the checks, to make sure people get the benefits they need, to enroll people in Social Security, whether it's because you're a retiree, you have survivor benefits or disability, this is how you chip away and take from it. And it is a scam on the American people. And then we are seeing what is going on with our military, taking the Joint Chief of Staff out of his position, replacing him with someone who doesn't meet eligibility under the law. Today announcing all transgender military members will be discharged. We had that awful plane accident in Washington, D.C. involving a military helicopter and an American Airlines regional plane. There were still bodies in the water, and the President of the United States is saying, this is because of DEI. And we understand when he uses that what he means. He means non-white equals non-qualified. That's what he means. And we have to make sure that we are there pushing back. All of these processes, everything we do in government can be done more efficiently and better. I wish that we had this incredible tech mind from Silicon Valley instead saying, let's look at these systems at the IRS and Treasury that are so old. Why aren't they helping to fix them? Why aren't they helping us making those investments so we can actually do things faster and better and more efficiently, help people get health care at a lower cost? That would be a great use of Doge and what they can do. And the game is to transfer wealth back to not even the top 1%, but really the highest echelons, the richest man on earth. Then we're in a different game. And we're in a game where we also see that the greed continues while he is looking out over all these contracts, whether he is also continuing to take $15 billion in government contracts for himself. Just the other day, we added $400 million in Tesla trucks that were purchased by the State Department. And then we learned yesterday that the FAA is now going to purchase their equipment from Starlink. Maybe Starlink ends up being the best system we can have. We certainly need to upgrade FAA. But we don't get there when it is not done through a process where we see the costs and proposals and we have audits. And how do we know this is all fake? You don't start a transparent process by firing the inspector generals. That's what you do when you're pulling a fast one on people, and it is very systematic. When they fired the head of the Air Force, Joint Chief of Staffs, and other heads of other generals, they also fired all the chief JAG officers because they do not want to be held accountable. And this is where we come in. We have to hold them accountable at every turn. We had a victory this week. It was quite the drama on the floor. We held together as Democrats. We had a member from Colorado come back with her 4-week-old infant, and I have to say, people were like, "Oh, you flew her in on a private jet." This was, I'm like, I wish, but she actually came on a commercial airplane from Denver with several Republican members who apparently just didn't notice her. And then we had another California representative who got out of his hospital bed, went to LAX, flew to DC, brought his wife because she changed his IV bag for him on the plane to be there. And at first, we thought we had it defeated. We were going to vote on the bill, and then they pulled it, but then they flipped every single vote except for one, except for Massey. Every single one of them, and we'll go through some of the folks who I want you to be familiar with, who went home, wrote letters, said this is an outrage, you can't do this to my community, and then they voted yes, because Donald Trump wants them to. And we're in a situation with fear of a primary, the fear of losing your power in the United States House of Representatives is having you turn your back on the very people who voted you into office. It is a terrible place. I think that moderates in the GOP in the House are non-existent because I don't care what you say in private or think. How do you vote when it matters? So everything about this has been chaotic, and that is part of the game. That is systematic. It is a strategy. If we are all off balance and just can't keep up with it, I mean, every time I come out of a meeting, I try not to be on my phone in these meetings. I'm like, what happened? I remember sitting in my office and there was a TV on mute and it said, Matt Gaetz nominated for Attorney General. I thought I was having a neurological episode. I fallen asleep and had a bad dream in the middle of this meeting. I couldn't even comprehend it. And now I'm thinking that Matt Gaetz must be like, well, what was wrong with me? Because after they confirmed the rest of that crew, I'm like, Matt doesn't really look so much worse in comparison to anyone else. But it is hard to keep up with this fire hose that we are experiencing. It can be exhausting. It can make you want to tune out, and you all should definitely. Self-care is important. This is a long haul. But we have to stay engaged, and we have to press every single day. And so the way we've been looking at this as House Democrats is our first thing, our first sign this was going to be even worse than we thought was back in December when the last budget was up. And all of a sudden, not Donald Trump, not Mike Johnson, but Elon Musk was telling us over Twitter, we're going to shut down the government unless you give us a blank check and raise the debt ceiling. And we said, go ahead, and called their bluff. And they, passed it without it. But now, since inauguration, it has just been an onslaught, as you all well know. And so our first thing that we did as House Democrats was partner with amazing AGs like our own Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, who is an incredible partner, and with outside groups like, oh my gosh, I just told you, Democracy Forward, thank you. Democracy Forward, just unbelievable. And I've brought them into our caucus meetings so that our members can understand, and that's got to be the first place that we work from. Getting in over now upwards of 90 cases have been filed, and we are winning consistently, We've lost a few on standing, where they said it can't be a union, it's got to be an actual employee. But we'll come back and refile, and we are winning. Today, for the first time, they're going to depose Doge. They're going to start getting to the bottom of who these people are, what they are doing in these systems, and what are the conflicts of interest that they present. So that is going as well as it can be. I know it feels slow, even though it's fast for the legal system, because we respect the rule of law and rules and civil procedure, but it feels slow when they're in our systems, and you just want to go down and bar the doors and do whatever you can, but they're already in there, and it's like whack-a-mole. They just show up all over. And so our second strategy after the courts is, of course, legislating. And we are clear-eyed about the fact that we are in the minority in the House, the Senate, and they hold the White House. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be filing legislation that sets out exactly what's going on here and what people can do. And we have to remember and put pressure on Republican members of the House that it only takes 3. If 3 of them stand up, if 3 of them decide that it is country over party, that it is country over their own primary, that they can withstand this, and they will be supported if they do this. They can stop this tomorrow. Just 3 of them. That's all we need. We actually gained 10 seats in the House of Representatives. We flipped 10 seats, and we're at 215. Currently, with 2 absences, they have 218 members. 3 people. 3 people, and we can demand that they bring things to a vote. So that brings us to mobilization. And this is where our work is hand in glove, because we need to be working together to make sure that we are doing several things. One, all the data shows us that people now, they're distrustful of news, they're distrustful or don't read legacy news, but the #1 news source they trust is you. Family, friends, co-workers, that's who they trust. And it may not be broadcast on TV or have 1 million views on YouTube, but your voice is so effective. I have a friend in Wakefield who's writing a letter to the editor every day. And he had an incredible quote the other day that I took and used at a press conference. And it was from FDR in his Four Freedoms speech. And forgive me if I get it a little wrong, but FDR said, "Be aware of a small group of selfish men who would clip the wings of the American eagle to feather their own nests." I mean, holy cow. FDR was clearly looking to 2025. A small group of selfish men indeed. And so this mobilization piece is so important. It is about telling our stories, because the American people told us clearly in the election, cost of living's too high, groceries are too high, housing's too high. I am not getting ahead, and it is unfair. Now they chose someone who is betraying them to shake it up and make it work for them. And we have to tell the stories of Americans that are impacted. I can stand up here and talk about the 1.7 million people in Massachusetts who rely on Medicaid. 500,000 of them are, older adults with disabilities. 40% of them are kids. But that doesn't resonate like the stories. And that's what we need from you. And we have heard some incredibly compelling stories from our constituents. And we need to keep collecting them and bring those voices. We are using people with real experiences in our press conferences. My State of the Union guest is going to be a mom of a son who has a very rare cancer. And when you stop NIH research like they have, dramatic cuts, we will not have that pipeline of cures for her son, Declan. We will not have the cancer research that we need for the future. And as one dad said to me, it's only a rare disease until it's your child. And our economy here in the 5th District is so dependent on all of this working that we remain the best in the world here in our district at taking things out of the academic lab and putting them into the marketplace and providing those cures for families and making sure they have health insurance here to cover it. And if we take away Medicaid, all of that goes away. If we take away NIH funding and funding for research, it all is upended for our communities and the impact on the country and the globe from doing that as well. So we have to make sure that we are hearing your stories and that we also need the stories from federal workers who are being impacted, because it helps us and it helps us work with the litigators who are bringing these cases. Today we got a call to the office from a union representative that everyone except for 3 managers, GS-13s, in the Boston HUD office were let go today. So while we have a housing crisis and people are searching for Section 8 housing, for affordable housing, this is the answer the Trump administration gives. You fire everyone in the Boston HUD office. So we need, we would not have known that if she had not called our office. So we need all of you to be our eyes and ears in the community, in these federal offices, and help us paint this story for the American people of what it means. Because I can tell you, as a former appropriator in Congress, I can talk about reconciliation and debt ceiling and budget anomalies, and it's like, what are you talking about? But when I talk about the woman in my district whose husband has advanced dementia, and in her late 60s, she is still working because she has to put food on their table. The only way she's able to go to work to pay their mortgage and provide for them is because she has Medicaid that brings people in to help her husband while she's away. If that leaves, she can't work. And then we're in a whole nother series of supports. And she said, I don't know what will become of us. I don't know what will become of us. These are our neighbors. This is real impact, and these stories mean something. And then we've got to take the fight to the people who are going along. So we're gonna show a little video about what you all have been up to in February across the country. I don't know if you can see that.
Can you hit the lights? Yes.
They're getting hammered by protests. Some Republicans in swing districts are getting hammered by protesters outside their offices.
Where's John Barrett? Where's John Barrett? Dozens of protesters gathered outside Minnesota Representative Michelle Fischbach's offices in Wilmer on Wednesday. They're calling on Fischbach to oppose President Trump's policies.
The focus was on Congressman Don Bacon as a crowd gathered outside his office, demanding that he find time to speak directly with his constituents.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen one scheduled from him so far.
A spokesperson for Don Bacon says he's booked months in advance. We also asked Colorado Republican members of Congress if they support Medicaid cuts. Only Dave Evans got back to us, but didn't provide a clear answer.
Did you know that the VA was in charge of payments for illegals for housing?
That's a red herring, a false flag.
Representative Hearn would not criticize the cuts or the way that they're being handled. He's on the most important budget committee in Washington, and today several of his constituents told him they didn't think he was doing his job.
Will you call Elon Musk in to testify under oath?
The group of protesters claims if he puts public figures, including President Donald Trump and Elon Musk, before his constituents. They also have a litany of complaints against the congressman. The people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Across the board, he's done some very good things. I think
Patients and healthcare workers are holding an emergency town hall to stop Medicaid cuts that they say would devastate Bakersfield families. They're urging Congressman David Valadao to stand against any proposed cuts.
The group hoping to get the attention of Congressman Jay Obernolte on this issue.
Another protest against the Trump administration, this time in front of Congressman Pete Stauber's office in Hermantown. We reached out to Congressman Stauber for comment regarding the protest, but have not heard back yet.
the end result of the fraud and abuse that has been discovered already.
But it's starting. So I want to just go over for you a few of the examples of people who are not only politically vulnerable because of their districts, but now, as of last night, have taken a really terrible vote. So this is Juan Ciscomani. He is from Arizona, from Tucson, the suburbs, and this district has a very large military presence. He beat his Democratic opponent by 2 percentage points, and he has 24% of his constituents are enrolled in Medicaid. That's 105,000 adults in his district. Then we have David Valadao. This vote made my jaw drop. I could not believe that he voted yes. David is from a Central Valley district. It is perennially in play in politics. It's always flipping back and forth. He is in his 6th term. He lost in 2018 and then won again in 20. 3 out of 5 constituents in his district rely on Medicaid. 3 out of 5. That's 470,000 people in his district. He was among 6 Republican representatives and 2 delegates who signed a letter to the Speaker warning about slashing Medicaid would have serious consequences, particularly in rural and predominantly Hispanic communities like his. So he writes that letter and then voted yes. It is unbelievable, the betrayal of these people. The major hospital near David Valadeo is Fresno, California. It is the 2nd busiest hospital in the state. It has 1,200 beds, and on any given day, there are 200 people in the hallways because they do not have a bed for them. If Medicaid is shut, that closes. It is a trauma hospital, it is a burn hospital, it is the lifeline for the people of Central Valley, and he put it in jeopardy. Then we go on to Gabe Evans. Gabe Evans was elected by less than a percentage point in a heartbreaking race in November, unseated an incumbent, Yadira Caraveo, the Democrat. This is a highly competitive district. It stretches along Interstate 25 north of Denver. More than a quarter of his constituents are on Medicaid. He told the Denver Post that he would support common sense spending reductions, but as it showed in the video, dodged the question about Medicaid. So we'll be visiting Mr. Evans in 2026. Mary Miller Meeks won one of the closest races in the country. She won by 800 votes. And in Iowa 1, she risked the health care coverage of 66,000 people in her district. Zach Nunn was reelected by 4 points in November. He heard it from Iowans. There was a loud outcry asking him not to vote for this. It threatens the health coverage for 74,000 adults in his district. And both of these Iowa representatives have seen their approval ratings plummet as they refuse to stand up. John James in Michigan, another competitive district. He sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee that has jurisdiction over Medicaid. 24% of his constituents are enrolled in Medicaid, 89,000 adults. He voted yes. Don Bacon won by just 1.8 points in November to beat the Democratic challenger. 54% of Nebraskans voted to expand Medicaid in 2018, and just a month ago, he told Nebraska Public Radio that the proposed cuts to Medicaid were too large, and he could not support them. But he went right ahead and voted yes last night. Mike Lawler won re-election by about 6 percentage points to keep his seat representing constituents in southern New York. He is also probably running for governor in New York. He's certainly looking at that. About 26% of residents are enrolled on Medicaid. He voted yes. Ryan McKenzie narrowly beat Susan Wild. I know some of you went and helped Susan Wild in Pennsylvania. 51 to 49%. It is a very diverse district. 20% of his constituents are covered by Medicaid or CHIP. And then we have Rob Brustman, who defeated Matt Cartwright, also in Pennsylvania, by 1.6 percentage points. 27% of his constituents on Medicaid. He said in a statement earlier in February, "I will not vote for a bill that guts the benefits my neighbors rely on," until he did. So these are just a sampling of the folks that are sitting in really tough districts that need to hear from all of us about what it means when you take away our healthcare system. If they are successful in the cuts that they are proposing to Medicaid, there is no way that my colleagues in the State House are going to be able to close this gap. And for states around the country, including New Hampshire, still have trigger laws. So if there is a cut, sometimes it's 1% or 2%, this would be more like 20%, to Medicaid, the whole program goes away. So think about that. Trigger states like New Hampshire, Virginia, Illinois, this is devastating, and they are only getting going. So I can't thank you enough for being here, for what you're doing, for speaking out, for being part of meeting this moment when your country and the people of the Commonwealth and of the United States need your voice. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I forgot the slide that Medicaid is very popular. You know this.
I don't know how to find it.
In case you were dozing off.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for being here. Pat Deal, Arlington. Yes, mic's off.
All right. Yes. As you go through, as we watch these people, which we've been with shock and awe these last month, and everything you just outlined for us, it seems so un-American, so unpatriotic. How can they be taking on this country that we love and supposedly they love and undermining it?
Well, that is the question. You know, it's easy to get glib about it when you sort of look at the cast of characters some days, but it is nothing to be glib about, because it is deadly serious for people who are literally not going to survive this, and for the trauma we are inflicting on a country, and it is so widespread. You know, I talked to my colleagues like Angie Craig in Minnesota, and she went out and met with the farmers in her district. She's large, and they are terrified because they've already planted because they had contracts with USAID. So you can't get that money back. You've already planted because you have a contract with the U.S. government to provide soybeans and other agricultural products. And now they're saying, well, that's just too bad. That's part of your government waste and fraud. So when I look at these people around me, we've seen this in history. It is people acquiescing It is the Jeff Bezos that say, oh, our opinion page is now going to be about free markets and personal liberties. I don't know if he's planning on hiring a opinion writer to talk about reproductive freedom, because I think that's a personal liberty that we could use some improvement on. So I think it is hard to root our daily experience and put it in the historical context. But we can't let them just sugarcoat this and say, don't worry about it. You know, we won't really cut these programs. It is an active plan to undermine, and we saw it in the cabinet meeting today. Nobody has a complaint, right, about Elon, because if they do, they're out. He was somewhat joking, but it's very real, and that is what they are feeling, this threat from the White House. And, you know, some of it is understandable, but you have to have the courage to meet this moment. I went on a trip last summer with a Republican. We were studying economics and the effect on women and women economics in Africa. And he had just voted against, I believe it was impeaching one of the secretaries. I believe it was Mayorkas. And, you know, I was like, good for him, you know. Well, good for him, but while we were traveling, his family received multiple bomb threats in their home. So these Republicans, when they step out, truly fear sometimes for what will happen to them. But the only way to do that, to move through this, is to do it together. You know, to find the partners who stand up, because some of them are true believers in this, but many of them are not. And they see Donald Trump for what he is, but they're going along.
Hi, thank you for being here. I'm Janice. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Burlington DTC. My question is, what is the National Party doing to break through the lies that are being fed to these people in the red states? For example, today that Speaker Johnson, when questioned about these protests, said, oh, these are the Democratic protesters, these aren't our people. How can we break through? Because these people listen to the lies of Fox and they believe what they're being fed. How can we break through to them? And from the National Party, what's the National Party doing to help that?
Yeah. Thank you. So I can tell you what the Democrats in the House are doing. We are running both digital and mainly digital, but other ads as well, that are holding up these votes and trying to attack some of this misinformation. But the political misinformation is a thorny, difficult, and dangerous problem for us, and there's no easy solution. But one thing that we are making a priority is appearing in places where people are getting their news. And I would say the Democrats are about 10 years behind the Republicans in figuring this out. Yes. And so, you know, we've got a lot of ground to cover, but we got to do it. And we got to do it fast. And that has become our priority. Because if you read a newspaper, and this is all according to polls, or you watch main cable news, you are already voting Democrat. Mm-hmm. Like, it is important for us to be in those places, but most people, certainly most swing voters and young voters, are getting their news from social media, from YouTube, from other places, podcasts, And they're often not getting it from news sources, but entertainment like sports or some other entertainment that also sprinkles in a perspective and an ideology. So we have some very creative members. Morgan McGarvey, who's a new member, the only Democrat in Kentucky. Obviously a big bourbon fan. He's the head of the Bourbon Caucus. He's talking a lot about the effect and the impact on the tariff on Canada, on bourbon. And that's what he went on all the top bourbon podcasts and talked about it, because that's where people are. And all of a sudden they're connecting the dots, like, what? You know, I'm not gonna get this bourbon, or this bourbon is gonna go out. And we have to do more of that. We can't keep talking as much as we love it in the MSNBC echo chamber. We have to go to where people are getting their news. It is a top priority of ours in House Democrats.
The mic's not working.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're just having.
We just turned this one on. Hopefully that
This seems to work.
So, one of the most important things I think is to create that sense of strength amongst us, right? And I would hope, and Joe Stewart actually advocated for that in his latest show, to create a daily kind of broadcast on social media, like at 5 o'clock. The national level of the Democratic Party can provide a briefing to everybody here, and everybody wants to hear. I'm hoping that this message is heard among the top brasses of the Democratic Party.
Please use someone with charisma, not Chuck Schumer.
Well, we have a lot of talent, but I think I'm hearing this more and more, like every day. Every day, same time, same back channel. We're gonna, okay, all right, noted. Well, we are starting shadow hearings. They will be starting next week. It is not going well, as you can see in our, Maxwell Frost. They didn't allow him to speak after he called the president a grifter. Okay, I thought that was pretty diplomatic. But so there's a lot of nonsense going on. So we are going to start our own hearings and make sure that those are broadcast with witnesses that can help us tell this story to the American people of what's happening in real time as we go. So those
Hi, my name's Eileen. I'm in Watertown, and thank you for being here tonight. So, I'm really alarmed, like probably most everybody else in this room, and I see us as being in the middle of a constitutional crisis. We are in the middle of a coup in progress. We need to go beyond business as usual, beyond just maybe trying to peel away one more Republican, beyond looking at the 2026 elections, because we might not even have elections in 2026. That's as a leader to stop them. We have to stop Musk. We have to stop Trump. We have to stop what they're doing, because we have to if we're going to have a democracy at all. Thank you.
Listen, I get it. I mean, this is all the things you said. It's unfolding before our eyes. And so, we got to do it all. We got to be in court. We got to be in the streets.
They don't respect the rule of law.
But we have to. We have to. We have to do it.
More.
But these are the tools we have. and then we gotta mobilize.
They're not the only tools we have.
No, they're not,
No.
but we gotta use every single one that we have.
And then some, get more, get creative, yeah, think outside the congressional box.
I mean, Bernie Sanders is right now, he's like doing an anti-oligarchy tour, and he's meeting Republicans in different places, in different states,
Exactly.
trying to tell them the truth. All right,
Exactly.
people like AOC are screaming at the top of her lungs, but she's not in leadership because Jerry Connolly is. And Jerry Connolly just capitulated to Musk when she's in the street saying that, you know, but Jeffries was just on with Maddow, and she tried so hard to put it through his head that Democrats are scared and need him to be more resourceful and to fight harder. And she could not get him to admit that. So, I mean, we're in a place where tyranny was first fought. But we're not fighting tyranny as hard as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing about Lexington, and the Lexington 250 committee doesn't want to hear it. They want it to be a lovely celebration with no politics and whatever. Let me say this. The reason that we are here today is because citizens fought against a tyrant. We must be present for the 250th, we must have signs, we must have a unified message, and we must be here to send a message to the rest of the country that there are Americans willing to go face to face with a tyrant and say, this is it, it's enough already.
To do this.
We do not have a coherent leadership structure for this, and we do not have unified leadership even at the grassroots level. We don't have it. Now we are involved with Indivisible. We are members of the Democratic Committee in Lexington. We went to the state convention. We did all of this along with the postcard writing and everything else. We were committed. We are committed in a different way now. The way is confrontation, and the way is public confrontation on the street. I was involved in Vietnam in 1969 in D.C. The feds had machine guns pointed at us. The feds had guns pointed at us. I was maced in DuPont Circle with a bunch of other people. We will have to do the same thing. And there may be, again, 4 dead in Ohio, but this is what is going to happen. It's the only thing that is going to turn this around. And it's got to happen fast. Hitler took 9 months to control the whole nation.
I don't think it was 9 months. It was shorter than 9 months.
Well,
Trump has done more than Hitler in this amount of time.
That's right.
Over here.
Jesse.
Hi, I'm Betsy at Lexington. I appreciate your social media posts. Oh, sorry. I really appreciate your social media posts. It helps me to share them with my relatives. So thank you for being one of the people doing regular posts. I feel like we are so behind. I appreciate the list. I took notes. But I feel like what happens when Trump announces in 2 days he's committing troops to Russia? Then what happens? Because I mean, my grandmother taught me a lot about World War II, and I feel like we are generations away from understanding what it means to have conflict of that scope. We left NATO last week. We changed sides in a war, and I feel like I appreciate everything you're saying, but I also feel like I think we have sharp minds, and I think we need to understand then what? Because he's sidestepping you. He's sidestepping Congress.
Yes.
And we haven't really seen it in our lifetime, so I feel like maybe you can't tell us, but I sure as hell hope that our smartest people are having desktop exercises on what happens if we read this in the paper, because we won't read it in the paper. We're going to see it on your social media, and then we need to know what to do to cooperate. And I mean, I'm saying it like, I'm not crazy. People here will tell you I'm not too crazy. But I feel like
you're not.
But like that's where we are, and I feel like I don't want us to keep being 7 steps behind because we're still imagining.
Thank you for bringing up, because I've been very focused on Medicaid, DOGE, what's happening here. What happened at the UN this week? It is, I can't even describe it. We have the President of the United States leave our democracy and ally Ukraine and stand over. And then today he has the audacity to say, I called Zelensky a dictator. I don't remember, I didn't say that. Like he either actually doesn't remember, which is a whole nother problem, or, but this is the thing. Like people said to me, how can you not stop that UN vote? Because he is president and he gets to make that. And that is, this is on us. I can use every tool I have as a member of Congress. We are using every tool we have to make sure that we are taking this fight to them. But when things that we have, that we've always been able to do, Gregory Meeks from New York is our ranking member on Foreign Affairs. When weapons are sold, they have to give their approval. The ranking member, the chairman of the Senate, and the ranking member on the Senate.
You say that, but...
So this is how it's always worked, right?
It's not working.
It doesn't work anymore.
Just give me a sec, I'm coming to it. So this is how it's always worked. President Trump came and said, I want these weapons. Greg Meeks said, no, I'm not doing it until I get answers to all these questions. Weapons shipped. Weapons shipped. So we are at a point where none of the usual levers are working, and that's why we're here.
So if the tools aren't working, you need new tools.
Right, that's right, that's right.
To your earlier point, some of us are going out on Wednesdays, 11:30 till 12, in front of the Minuteman, in front of the Battle Green. We're just standing there. And I think it has made a difference. Like a man with a Navy hat who served in Vietnam was just coming by as tourists. We have to be better connected with people who are from other countries. And you're right, people from around the world are coming here in April. So whatever it means we have to find a way to be more visible,
right, and
help people understand. I don't know the missing piece, but I know for me it's like go out fucking side. And because we can call you 5 times a day and you're already on our side.
It doesn't, yeah, we have to go out into the country. We have to talk to people, meet them where they are. We have to be where their news is being made. And we have to explain to them that we're going to use every tool we have, but they're going around them. They're going around them. It is unconstitutional. It is illegal. And it is, but this is where we're all in this together. What I can do as a member of Congress, I will do everything I can. But when you break all the rules and you say, we're no longer honoring that, we're no longer going to wait for that. We have to continue to do those 3 things. Use every tool we have in Congress, use every tool we have in the courts, and then we mobilize. We mobilize.
Everyone, let's keep the quorum. But due to the Congresswoman's time, we're going to have one last question, and I'm going to go here.
I'm sorry. I'll share half my second. Hi, I just want to ask this really quick. Sorry, I'm nervous to ask this. I'm your neighbor. I live in Melrose. I want to ask the following question, and that I've been reading a lot of articles that say that Massachusetts sends more money to the federal government per capita than any other state. It's not fair taxes. I think you said you want us to reset the game. You've given us a lot of tools, which I greatly appreciate. But why aren't we cutting them off?
Yes.
But we should be working with the other blue states and cutting them off. Putting them in the house and saying, guess what? We're not giving you our money until you cooperate and follow the law.
For Masquerade, is there
What is it? The medicine thing?
Medicaid.
For Medicaid, is there any chance we could like not take off 20% of the budget? Like, is that possible?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it starts by the vote that we had, but there is a very long fight to come. And we have to keep at every single turn where they are saying, trust us with your taxpayer dollars. We have to say, we don't trust you anymore. We're not giving you any more dollars until you guarantee to us that you are going to give it to the people, that you show us. You show us. So it is not guaranteed that Medicaid will be cut and that all this devastation will happen. It is not guaranteed that Elon Musk will take over our federal government. It is not guaranteed that we will side with Russia and leave NATO and our European allies hanging. But all of us have to do everything. I will do everything. I will use every tool in my power. It's not going to be enough without every single one of you doing everything that we can. This is a moment in our history and our history.
What do you want us
We could go over it again. We have to get together. We have to tell the stories. You have to make your voices heard. You've got to write the letters. You've got to be on social media. You've got to do this, and you've got to organize and protest. I mean, there's no one else coming to do this for us. Like, I will do everything I can, but it has to be together. There's not one leader who's going to do it. It's going to be Jasmine Crockett and Maxwell Frost and AOC and Bernie Sanders. And leadership. But we are in this together as a House Democratic caucus. There aren't little factions. We are in this together.
Then why isn't the caucus speaking with one voice? I don't hear anything from anybody else.
What?
I hear very little from anybody else in the House caucus. It seems like 3/4 of them are sitting on their hands. I hear from you, I hear from AOC, I hear from some of the other members. Everyone else seems to be gone.
But that, you know, I will defend my members. Obviously, there are some very talented people who communicate well. AOC, Jasmine, you know, Robert Garcia, there's a whole host of people that do it very, very well.
Agreed.
But it's also, those people have very big followings. We need them. We need them desperately because we are behind. But we also are giving members the tools they need to get out there. We are encouraging them every day. We are doing new things all the time about using different technologies than some of our members. We have a new thing going every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday called WTF. And we go right through, every member's doing it. We do live Instagrams and we talk about the issue that's going on that day in Congress. So because all of you haven't heard it, means you've got to do more, but you have to amplify it. Like you have to, you love.
We can't amplify, we don't hear about it.
Well, this is the problem though. So if you get my stuff, send it out. If you like AOC and you follow her, send her out. Like whoever you hear from, you have to make sure that you are putting this out because we are working against misinformation. We are working against Fox News and a conservative media market that is pumping out misinformation to voters. And we have to be absolutely tight in our message. This is one playbook, and we've seen it through history. You divide people, you create the other, then you come in and you steal their money and you give it to the powerful. And you use war and the threat of war to get it done. And that's what we are in. and you disregard the rule of law and the Constitution.
You know, well, everything you're suggesting makes logical sense. This approach takes time, and we're watching our government. And first of all, thank you for serving this country. And we are happy that we are here. We're even happier we're not in New York anymore right now. But this takes time. And every day we are seeing more and more of a dismantling of our government and our country, piece by piece by piece. I mean, I wake up shocked every day. So when you talk about, well, the Democrats always adhere to the rule of law, there is no rule of law. We have a Supreme Court who actually gave this diabolical president basically immunity from everything. So maybe the Democratic Party has to start revising how they're thinking about going after this, and start to utilize that would be a great idea. Stop getting the money. In terms of fighting, I have a 34-year-old son with autism. I have been fighting for my son since he was diagnosed at the age of 2, and I will never stop fighting for him. Medicaid impacts him. Everybody in this room has somebody close to their heart that is going to be impacted. We'll give you all the stories you want. Tell us how to get them to you. You know, my father also was a World War II veteran, and I'm thinking the other day to my husband, what is the actually lifespan of a memory? It's 80 years. Because 80 years will mark the end of World War II, and my father was in the group that marched into Dachau. We are watching fascism rise all over the place, and this country is going to go down fast unless we do something drastic and much more creative. I mean, I'm sorry, I've been a Democrat my entire life, but even during the election, I just felt that everything fell short in the Democratic Party in what they were doing and what they were saying. You know, and that's my opinion. But thank you for everything.
I think that if you want us to work together, you should stay longer. I understand that you have a schedule, but I think that an hour and 15 minutes is not enough for the situation that we are having.
This young woman looks like she's going to cry if she doesn't get fed.
Can I have the mic? Hi, I'm Julie Natick. I am feeling the same urgency and anxiety, but I'm going to, instead of from the legislative way, because the Congresswoman can't endorse anything illegal, but from the Democratic campaign side, I think we all just want to win so badly. I consider myself a zillennial. And what's a zillennial? Gen Z millennial. So a lot of my peers are either apathetic or quite to the left of me. They think I'm an establishment shill. And I will spend all day, every day, because I have to, talking to them about why something needs to be messaged the way it does, why something needs to work procedurally the way it does, why it has to go in this order the Democrats are fighting for us. And I think right now, with this urgency, they finally are willing to say, whatever, let's win. I don't know what the strategy is going to be, whether we're going to go populist or moderate, but in any case, when I whip my votes with my friends, there's just one thing. There is one hill that I need to die on because it's the hill they're dying on, and I can't do anything without it because it is so incongruent and in such opposition to everything right now that we're saying about billionaires on the other side. And that one thing is, and this is something you can help do, is get Congress people, Rep. Gottheimer, Rep. Golden, and God bless her, I love her, she's brilliant, Madam Pelosi, to stop doing anything that appears improper or like insider trading. It is the hill they're dying on, and I can't get them to be excited and
political explanation I can give them that isn't simply personal greed. So that's why I'm asking you as our caucus whip. That is something you could do right now, and I really appreciate you being here, and don't envy you at all.
I wish I could do it right now, but I have strongly supported and will continue to, and when we get those gavels back, when we wrestle them out of their hands, we are going to pass a stop.
You can talk to her. You can talk to them. You're in the caucus.
No, I mean, our caucus will pass it.
No, but they can just stop without a law about it. That's not.
What do you mean?
Stop trading stocks.
Oh,
it sucks that the Republicans are still going to do it, but we can stop. And that will make people my age not be able to give that as the one thing that they hate. Because they hate when they're seeing something new and then they're hearing it. And they're hearing behavior if not, and they're seeing the stop trend.
So, I just, some people asking for a little explanation of what she's saying. There is a deep feeling that members of Congress should not be trading in stocks because we get information, we have hearings, we meet with heads of corporations, and so while I don't think that insider trading is rampant, it's a perception, and perception is reality. So we've got to end it. There are things that the Senate can do that the House can't do, as far as putting things in a trust that you can't see. And so the House just doesn't have those mechanisms. But I think it is very difficult for people who come into Congress. We just got to ban it so that it's clear when you come into Congress, this is something you can't do any longer. If that doesn't work for you, if that doesn't work for your family, then you shouldn't run for this office. Mark has really given me the hook here.
Just one question. I have a suggestion. And then I know. Just very quickly.
Yes.
Okay. I believe that 4.2 million people were taken off the voter rolls by the Republican Party in the 2024 election.
Yeah.
Is what I understand. That would have been enough for you to be in the majority, and we would have had a Democratic president in Madam Harris. Why aren't we, as Democrats, employing the same legal tactics to take Republican voters off?
Come on, no, you don't want to do that.
Well, isn't it legal though?
It's not right on either side.
Okay, if it's not right on either side, how do you stop it?
Yeah, well,
that's the question.
We need to enforce it, but we're going the other way in a bill that they're bringing up that maybe some of you have heard of. The SAVE Act. I mean, there have been 30 cases of non-citizens voting. 30 out of, I mean, so many millions of votes cast. And they want to say, especially to women in this country, that if your name doesn't match your birth certificate, you cannot vote. That is the bill that Chip Roy is putting up. And because we were, like, they just keep pushing it down because of what is going on from the public. I mean, we whipped against it, we will whip against it, we defeated it last session, but they run the show now. But it is your voices that are keeping that bill off the docket because they're hearing from it, from their constituents. It is all over social media. Comedians have picked it up. It is, people are hearing about this bill. They're not able to just slide it under. And that is because of the work that you all are doing that is impacting them. They're like, we don't want to bring this up when we're about to shut down government on March 14th. And they, we have to stand strong and say, talk about not paying taxes, that's got all sorts of consequences we can talk about. But we're gonna have a decision on March 14th about funding the government. And if they're not gonna fund Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and our public schools, they can do it. They can do it. You fund it. You fund it. If you're not gonna give that money to the people of this country, you are in the majority. There has never been a full shutdown when one party controlled all branches. Listen up to the Democrats. This is your show.
Raise the bar super high.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it couldn't be higher.
Ask for the moon.
You know, get Elon out, reverse what, you know, he's already done. And you know, and then we can talk about doing an appropriations process. So, March 13th,